listeners, thank you for joining us. I'm Joy.
And I'm Laura.
And this is The Witches of Letters, a supernatural rewatch podcast.
Buckle up as we dive into Season 3, Episode 9, Malleus Maleficarum. I think.
Say that 3 times fast.
No, because then we'll hex the podcast. Because that's what happened a minute ago. We tried to start recording this, and then Joy said that too many times, and then her computer cut out. We had to start again.
Yeah, we definitely had some technical issues.
So I don't actually know what it means. I didn't look it up. Did you look it up?
Yeah, no, I know what it means. It's Hammer of the Witches or Hammer against the Witches. So it's supposed to be it's the text that was used to convict women of witchcraft and basically slaughter them en masse.
Oh, okay. So they shouldn't have hexed our podcast then, because it should be supporting us.
I know, but here we are. So yeah, it is annoying. But we made it. We're back. We've overcome the hex.
Yeah.
So this is going to be an interesting one for us, like as witches, watching the representation of witches in TV, in a TV show that we love. So for years and years and years, I was really, really frustrated with the show, and I wasn't expecting a lot out of it because it is set in Christian mythology, storytelling, like however you want to say it. Like, it's a Christian set show for the most part. So I didn't think that we were gonna get like the best of all, but like Missouri had me hopeful. But it's not really until we see Ruth O'Connell later on, who is an absolute like mega star. Her character really made me feel a lot better. Like we get some more positive representation, although not that positive, if I'm honest, as the show goes on. And I guess there's a little bit of positive representation within Ruby, but I feel like one of my biggest criticisms of this episode is there is a lot of sexism and a lot of misogyny just kind of underwritten in it. And the connection between women and demons and witchcraft feels really like awful, honestly. Yeah. Like it's a pretty sexist episode. I'm not a fan of Dean in this episode very
much. He definitely doesn't like witches.
Like he gets the raw end of it. And there's some stuff that he says that's genuinely funny, and I do understand that like witches can also be fictional characters. Like, I'm not a dick about it. But, and I would say I have a pretty great sense of humor, to be fair. And there are a lot of fictional portrayals of witchcraft that I really love. But this is not really one of them. And I stand by those of us who wrote into the show and were like, listen, could we get a little bit of good representation? Like, could we come on.
Yeah, not all witches worship demons.
Yeah, we're not all Satanists. We're not all demon worshipping. Yeah. It's a lot. I think that the persecution of witches and pagans still continues, and I think it's definitely linked to the persecution of women in general, because there are still more female pagans than there are male pagans for a reason, because we're exiting patriarchy when we come into paganism. The vast majority of us go much more towards the goddess than towards male deities, because we're generally raised in areas where that was like the only option. And there wasn't really a representation of womanhood as sacred. And I saw this really cool quote on Pinterest that wasn't attributed, I don't think, but it just basically said that the reason why patriarchy hates witchcraft so much is because it's the only space where women can draw power from that doesn't involve a man in any way, shape, or form. And so it's terrifying to patriarchy.
Yeah. And that was what the witch hunt was basically like, men being like, how dare this woman want to, like, I don't know, not get married or have a,
how dare she have a successful business? No.
we must kill her immediately.
100%. And my Easter egg is kind of like that way adjacent, honestly. I definitely think one of the things that horror does, and I know we've spoken about this before, but horror unearths the deeper psychology of a time period and what people are really thinking about. And this time period was really sexist. And you'll find a lot of the time that the more sexist or the more, what's the word that I want here? Conservative ideals, like the Satanic Panic era, crop up, the more you're going to see representations of powerful women equated to evil, but especially equated to witchcraft and witchiness. And that label is something that has been used for a really long time to try to put women in their place and shut them up. And they've tried to make her ugly. They've tried to make her undesirable. They've tried to make her isolated and like an example of everything that the patriarchy is against. And honestly, I think that just makes us love her more, frankly. I think it's backfiring. But yeah, we're not going to see the best representation of women or witches in this episode, but I'm hoping, I have faith that we are going to make it hilarious.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here. That's why I was literally messaging Laura before this episode being like, I don't like it. I don't want to do it. I don't think I'm going to have fun.
Yeah, but you said that about Bugs and Bounty Traveler.
Yeah.
And they were some of our best episodes.
Yeah. Yeah. We really thrive through spite on this podcast. We really, really do.
I did like getting the backstory of Ruby, or a bit more of her backstory, because she is my new favourite character.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is...
away.
I don't think that's a very popular opinion from what I've heard. Oh, we had a comment actually last week saying about like our opinion of Ruby and how this listener thought it was interesting hearing our thoughts about why we like Ruby, because I don't think she liked her very much in the first iteration of her. So yeah, but I think she's really cool. I think she's interesting, and especially now that we know she used to be a human and she used to be a witch. Like, being a human is a big deal, I think.
Well, yeah, because it sets her apart. It means that she's not just a dyed-in-the-wool monster. Like,
yeah.
And it also sets up this extra layer of threat and dread for Dean, because she literally is like, you're going to be a demon. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, you will be a demon. Demon Dean. I feel like that's okay to say, because that's only what was said in the episode. And I'm not saying anything else. But yeah, no, so to just like bring us back. So I love Ruby's character as a femme fatale. I feel like she ticks all the boxes. And she is the breath of fresh air in this episode, because she's the only woman who gets to have some kind of positive representation while also being powerful. And in fact, she fucking takes Dean out. Like, I know he's choking up his own blood and everything, but I just like love the fact that she takes him down so fast, pours that stuff down his throat, and then insults him like right back. And like all episode, he's been calling her a bitch and like a slut and whatever else. And it's like all horrible, shitty, sexist bullshit, honestly. And I love that every single time he tries to insult her, she insults him harder. It is really, really excellent. And she is the only reason why I actually have any time for this episode at all, because we get the backstory about Ruby, like we mentioned before. We get to see her be so kick-ass, like we've been mentioning. It is really, really awesome. And I live for the Ruby moments in this episode.
Yeah, same. She's good.
So I have some fun facts for us, Laura.
Okay.
Because I don't know where this would fit in as an Easter egg. I just want to say that's why I'm putting it here early, guys. I don't know how I would fit this in. So basically, we know from the location that they go to Sturbridge, Massachusetts, right? And that's where we get the Coven of Witches situation. Okay. So before this episode aired, it was titled Witch Hunt, and it was supposed to feature a demon framing a group of innocent women as witches to have them murdered, but this idea was dropped because it was too similar to the plot of Sin City. And I read that one, and I was like, that's not really what the plot.
Witches in Sin City?
No, there was no witches, there was only demons. And, like, it wasn't really innocent women being framed. Like,
no.
People were just kind of dying, and then it was Casey and the demonic father that were doing it. And I was really upset about that because that idea sounded so much cooler and so much less shit than the idea that they went with, honestly. So I wasn't thrilled. So the other one, which I think a lot of people know, but I think it's good to reiterate, is the title of the episode, Malleus Maleficarum, which is the hammer of witches, as in like to use against witches, is the title of a book first published in 1486, which basically served as the Inquisitor's how-to manual of identifying and destroying, sarcastic quotes, witches during the Inquisition. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So a little bit more about the location. So Sturbridge was first visited by the English Puritans in 1644 when John Winthrop the Younger visited the area now known as, pray for me, Tantuscris? I don't know. I'm real sorry.
Sounds right.
I tried. So John Winthrop was an English politician and, get this, an alchemist. So an early governor of Connecticut colony, he played a large role in the unification of the colony's settlements into a singular colony and obtaining royal charter. So he was really involved in the founding of places in this era. But the thing that I couldn't get over was they specifically chose an area where one of the key players was an alchemist. And not only that, but it's only about an hour away from Salem to drive there, or a day's walk. So back in ye olden days, it would have just been one day's walk. So they're really, really close to Salem. And then it has another connection to the Salem Witch Trials because Salem Town and his ancestor, Rebecca Nurse, were involved. So Rebecca Nurse was actually executed during the trials. And while Sturbridge wasn't directly involved in the witch trials, because there were so many family links and it was so close, it's definitely been washed with the same brush, historically speaking. So the things that happened to the Town family really highlights the broader impact of the Salem witch trials to communities in colonial Massachusetts. There's spillover, basically. So Rebecca Nurse is also the ancestor of several notable people, but there are two that are my absolute favorites. They're literally some of the most awesome people I feel like ever. Do you want to have a guess and then I'll tell you?
I don't even know where to start with a guess.
Okay. Vincent Price and Lucille Ball.
I would never guess that.
So cool. So she had it really rough. So she was the woman who was in her 70s when she was accused. She was accused by a woman initially. So what happened was these pigs were irresponsibly kept, got loose, and from what I can tell, it seems like really damaged her property. And since she's in her older age at this point, that's not a light blow to have happened. All of the accounts of her and her community say that she was super well loved. She was really brilliant, but she was a very independent, outspoken older woman, which is what made her a target. I know. How dare she live? How dare she live and have an opinion about pigs? So she told this guy where to stick it because she was in a moment of anger. And then really shortly after that, he passed away. And his wife, in her grief, like the absolute craziness of his sudden death, and the beginnings of the witch craze had already started, accused her of witchcraft. Now, she actually later retracted her statement. And the thing that gets me about Rebecca is that the entire town basically banded together to say that she was innocent. And she had to convince the first jury. They dismissed her. They said she wasn't a witch. Then there's a weird old Puritan law that means that you can get a second jury. And so the worst of the worst people asked for a second jury, and they asked her a question, and she was very hard of hearing because she was an older woman. So she misheard the question, answered it incorrectly in a way that made her sound as if she was admitting to witchcraft. So basically, one of the women who was accused of witchcraft, she said that they were of the same ilk, meaning that they had been accused of witchcraft. They didn't give her a chance to elaborate or anything. They just said witch, right? And what they took it to mean was that they were in a covenant with Satan and they were both witches.
Yeah.
which is highly convenient. Highly convenient.
They just
Can
read
I
into
just
that
say?
what they wanted.
Exactly. So then I found an article quote basically that I think really sums up the reasoning behind this really well, because while it wasn't only women that were accused of witchcraft, there was certainly a tilt towards women. And it's something that's been studied pretty well and pretty well documented, I feel. So I found a quote written by a woman looking at these specific studies, and her name is Hannah Syriac. And this is what she said. She said, while precise similarities have not been teased out between all the alleged witches, it seems that most factors around witchcraft had to do with power. So the accusations were linked specifically to women who had more power than they were supposed to have, right? So women had scant legal power in many societies, when that compounded with economic status, race, religion, and women cultivating influence and power where possible, it made women easy targets. They stood out and did not conform with the rest of society. Cotton Mather, an influential figure in the onset of the Salem trials, wrote a treatise on his idea of a, quote, virtuous woman. In it, he described how virtuous women were submissive, beautiful, but not too loud and not too immodest. I can't. Descriptions of alleged witches were often diametrically opposed to the idea of a submissive woman. These women attempted to stand out or influence society in some way, and they were punished for it. It's hard to craft a specific narrative of why women were accused of being witches, but it seems to boil down to women being courageous enough to be different and to claim space in a society that did not offer them legal power or protection.
Yeah. Well, it's just any woman who doesn't want to put up with any bullshit and wants to do what she wants to do instead of what society tells her to do.
Yeah, literally.
And the patriarchy doesn't like that, so she's a witch burner.
Yeah, not one bit. How dare you have an opinion?
Yeah.
Or power. Or money of your own. Yeah.
A bit about more power than she should have. According to who?
According to Cotton Mathers. Yeah, it's just is when you look at his role as well in like the accusations, the way that it started to calm down. Like there were parts where it started to calm down, and then he would go back and fan the fucking flames because he was enjoying the power trip, I think, and also because he was just a sexist pig. So yeah, it's something that I think is the perfect note to start us out for this episode. Did you want to drop in our synopsis?
Yes. This is season 3, episode 9, Malleus Maleficarum. The original air date for this episode was January 31st, 2008. Sam and Dean investigate a series of mysterious deaths in a small town. The trail leads them to a group of suburban housewives practicing witchcraft under the guise of a book club. These women have unknowingly made deals with a demon to gain good fortune and other desires, and as the brothers dig deeper, they discover that the demon behind it all is Tammy, a powerful and manipulative demon posing as one of the women. Sam and Dean confront Tammy, which doesn't go well, but fortunately Ruby shows up to help, fighting Tammy and revealing more of her past in the process. Ruby is also overpowered by Tammy, but she is eventually defeated with the help of Elizabeth, one of the witches who does a spell that slows Tammy down and weakens her, buying the others some time. At the end of the episode, Ruby goes to Dean and says she needs help preparing Sam for continuing the fight after Dean has gone.
Basically, Ruby completely saves their asses.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Tammy is very helpful.
I feel like Elizabeth helped as well, but she was also part of the original issue, so...
Oh yeah, I meant to say Elizabeth, not Tammy. Yeah, Elizabeth was helpful. Elizabeth was quite heroic, actually, because she sort of tries the whole time to steer them back towards something that's better. And then when she realizes what's happening, she does stand up and do the right thing, even though she knows it's dangerous. Like, she must have known that was really dangerous, and she did it anyway. So I feel like she's my MVP, because without her, none of what happened would be possible. So I'm just going to say that early.
You're doing the games early, Joy.
I'm sorry, I can't be contained by rules.
Okay, so it's nighttime and a couple are coming home from a, quote, terrible party The husband goes to get a bottle of wine from the fridge, and the wife goes into the bathroom to brush her teeth. At the same time, we see a woman lighting a candle and speaking an incantation, and other witchy items are around her. And then the woman's teeth start falling out, which I did not like. And originally, when I was watching this, I was eating my dinner. And
No.
I literally had to stop.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that wasn't nice.
Yeah, so the thing that gets me, aside from the forbidden bugs, is like body horror, medical horror. And so my notes are like, I knew that she was speaking in Gaelic or Gaelic adjacent because it sounds a lot like Welsh, and I've been studying Welsh for like over a year, so I was catching parts of it. But it turns out it's actually Irish, so it is Gaelic. I was right about that. Apparently, it's the Lord's Prayer. So she's not even saying a curse or a hex. She's just dramatically reading a version of the Lord's Prayer in Irish. So that's fucking random as fuck.
That doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't make any sense. Like, none of the witchcraft, quote unquote, that is being like shown in here really makes that much sense. Like, there's pieces of it that have a kind of logic to them where I'm like, oh, okay, but the vast majority of it is just not real.
Maybe they didn't think anyone was going to translate it and just thought, oh, it sounds cool.
Yeah. This could sound really menacing. So the horror and gore of that scene is pretty high for me. Like, I wrote, this is one of the worst scenes. This might be my equivalent of Laura's eyeball horror. Like, the teeth thing. I think teeth is my version of the eyeballs.
Didn't they have teeth falling out in Skin as well? And we were both like, ew, no.
Yeah, we were like...
Yeah, no, teeth, no.
Yeah, the shapeshifter gore is gross, okay? That was really gross. There's the part in the previous episode where is it the previous episode? The Christmas episode, where Dean is about to get his tooth yanked out.
Yeah.
That's gnarly. And I'm so glad that they didn't actually like go in for his precious teeth, because number one, he's very handsome, leave his teeth alone. Number two, horror, okay? I know that usually I'm like, give me good gore. The gore was a little bit too good. Okay? It was a little bit too high quality.
So then she calls for her husband, who's called Paul, and as he approaches the bathroom, the door slams shut and he can't get in. And then the woman, who's called Janet, is becoming more distressed, as you would. She's now coughing up blood and teeth into the sink, and her husband is banging on the door. And I wrote, that isn't going to do anything, Paul. Kick it down. Dean would.
Right?
He's just like rattling the door. It's like, kick it in.
He's so average. He's actually very below average, and I was really insulted because once you know the whole storyline, can I just say Janet is gorgeous. I would marry Janet, and I would treat her so much better than this piece of trash man. Can I just say, she's witty, she's classy, she has so much personality, she's gorgeous. Like, what the fuck is wrong with him?
Maybe he wasn't really trying to save her because he was having an affair anyway.
Maybe. It's just gross and unworthy.
Yeah. So then the spell ends and the door opens again, and then Janet is lying dead on the floor. Uh-oh. Yeah, it's scary dead on the floor, too. Poor Janet.
She's a great actress.
She deserved better. Yeah.
Like, who I don't know the name of this actress off the top of my head, but I hope that she's going on to do a lot more because she's really good. Like, she had my whole heart, and she's only in it for a few minutes at the beginning, but she just captured the scene.
I agree. So then it's the next morning, and Dean is questioning Paul, who's explaining what happened the night before. He says the police and the medical examiner can't explain it. And Dean's like, well, that's why they called us. And it turns out that they are impersonating agents from the CDC today. So it's different, not FBI, CDC, a different acronym. And Paul asks if they think it's some kind of virus then. And Dean continues to question Paul, and then we see Sam searching the bathroom for clues, and he finds a bag under the sink. Dean asks Paul if anyone would want to hurt Janet, and he says no. Then he goes quiet as he remembers that he's a dirty, dirty cheater and a liar. But he tells them no, and that everyone loved Janet. And I thought, yeah, except your girlfriend, Paul.
Yeah, I wrote down Dutton. Well, there is this one unhinged woman I had an affair with. Like, that's what the silent face says, because he remembers, he goes, oh, fuck. And then he straight up lies to Dean, and I was like, you're trash, trash, trash man. And while Dean is questioning him, Sam is off investigating. And I wrote Sexy Sam Investigations. Why are we using a flashlight, Sam? There are lights in this house. ... Like, just, he didn't need a flashlight for it. It looked cool, but he didn't really need a flashlight for any of that. It was fun, though. It was fun. Sam and Dean and Tyus are a thirst trap.
Yeah, always.
And also, my favorite line from this scene is when Dean's like, that dude seemed a little evasive to you, and Sam goes, I don't know, I was under a sink. Oh, I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah. So that's when they've left, and they say that, and then Sam says he found a bag, and it's a hex bag, and explains some of the stuff inside. And then Dean hands it back and says, so we're thinking witch? And Sam says, yeah, but it's old world black magic. And then they get into the car, and Dean sighs and says, I hate witches. And I put, okay, Dean, we'll try not to take that personally.
Excuse me while I literally cackle.
And then he says something about them always spewing bodily fluids everywhere. And I was like, ew, Dean. No.
No, that's you, Dean. That's you.
And then he says, what are we thinking? Looking for some craggy old Blair bitch in the woods. Which is so silly.
He says bitch so many times this episode. Not our usual son of a bitch, but just bitch so many times.
Word of the week.
Sigh. It is the word of the week. This could be a drinking game for this episode. Just every time Dean
How many times
bitch.
he says bitch, yeah.
Yeah.
Sam points out that it could be anyone they're looking for because witches are human, but that it must be someone who knew Janet and had a motive, so they need to find out what it was.
Yeah.
And then we cut to the neighbourhood, and we see a woman, who's Elizabeth, gardening, and she calls to her neighbour Amanda, who's just got out of her car. Amanda totally ignores her at first, and then when Elizabeth calls her again, she's like, oh, hi, sorry, I'm super busy, don't have time to talk to you.
In a very suspicious way.
Yeah. But Elizabeth's really sweet, and she's just like, are you okay? You didn't come to book club last night? And Amanda says she's fine and walks off. She goes inside, and some creepy music starts playing, and then she goes to her oven and pulls out a chicken covered in flies and maggots. So that was also disgusting. Ew.
Yeah.
No.
I wrote down, my feeling is that they had a dinner date and he never showed and was like, actually, I'm going to stay with my wife. And this absolute satanic slut was like, oh, okay, I will murder your wife and you will eat this dinner. And then she left it to rot this entire time.
Yeah.
That's what I think she did.
Yeah, that makes sense, actually. I did wonder why. That actually makes sense. So then that night, Paul is in his car eating a burger. He puts the radio on and eats his burger. I knew something was going to go wrong as soon as they put a radio on in a car.
100%. Because, anytime there's a radio in a supernatural scene, some bitch is about to get hurt, if not dead. It is not going to end well.
So, at the same time as this, we see Amanda doing a spell with the maggoty chicken. And Paul realises his watch is gone. And then Amanda puts it down with the chicken as part of the spell and says,
uh-oh!
This dinner was cooked for you, Paul Arthur Dutton, and now you're going to eat it. And then she stabs it with a knife.
Yep.
And then I was like, oh no, don't eat the burger, Paul. Not because I care about Paul, but more because I didn't want to see the maggots.
That's fair. You had just been put off your dinner already.
Yeah. And that's obviously exactly what happens. He eats the burger. It was cool though, the scene, because the song changes, doesn't it? To I Put a Spell on You when
yeah, that was really fun.
It's quite fun. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That was good horror. That was spooky. I like that.
I do always like it when they use the radio in that way, like it changes and then it gets affected by ghosts or witchcraft in this case.
Yeah, it's so creepy, and it's happened in so many real cases. It just adds that extra layer of spook factor.
Yeah. Do you know that my radio in my car always turns itself off and on again, and sometimes it the volume goes up and down? It always creeps me out.
Ghosts.
Yeah, I've got a haunted car.
We should do a bonus episode where we figure out what's going on there.
Yeah. Okay.
Investigate.
The maggots in the burger were rank though.
Really
didn't want
it was
to see
disgusting. I wrote down that there's too much gross factor in this episode for me.
Yeah, it's not so scary, it's just gross.
Disgusting. Yeah. Just absolutely disgusting.
Yeah. So Paul, he's eating this burger. He's then disgusted by the maggots and starts choking.
As he should. Choke. Stupid piece of shit.
He gets out of the car and is stealing on the road as Sam and Dean roar up in the Impala. Like, they literally just like drive over the verge. It's like, what are you doing, Dean?
I was like, oh, baby.
Poor baby.
Poor baby. It's okay. She's tough.
Dean goes to help Paul, and Sam goes to the car to try and find the hex bag. He finds it and then sets it on fire, and there's like a cool green-blue flame.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, and then we cut back to Amanda, and her like witchy setup sets on fire, and then she gasps in shock. Dean tells Paul someone's trying to kill him and asks who it might be. He says that he was having an affair with a woman who was unbalanced and blackmailing him. And I just wrote, oh yeah, she was unbalanced and you had no part at all in this affair, dickhead.
I love that.
Because yeah, I mean, she is a little bit, but he, you know, he was the catalyst in all of this.
Oh, 100%. Well, so they make references to Fatal Attraction, and I was like, oh, yeah. I see what you're doing. So you have Fatal Attraction plus witchcraft, and I wrote equals sexist horror.
Yeah, equals it's the woman's fault.
Yeah, everything is always the woman's fault. She's obviously the villain, even though he's the one who's married, who's having the affair. But no. It's her fault.
Yeah.
Okay, long-suffering sigh. Anyway, I thought that was really interesting because one of the writers of Fatal Attraction actually apologized for the ending of the movie and like certain aspects of the movie, and said that he felt that it was overly sexist, and if he had it to do again, there were things that he would change about it. And Glenn Close, who has the leading role, said that she never saw her character as a villain, and that she felt that the way that things went and the way that things were changed was a bit like there were changes made to it last minute. I haven't really watched it, if I'm totally honest, but I've read the synopsis and the summary, and so I understand that she is playing a character who is diagnosed with a mental illness, and she's also playing a character who was abused as a child in really specific, horrible ways. And I am so sick of seeing that trope played out over and over again, where every villain who's ever existed in cinema was abused as a kid, because it sends a really terrible message to abuse survivors. I'm very, very done with it. And I just feel like the trifecta that we're seeing within this episode of women having appetites, women having power, witchcraft, and women being equated to the demonic is just like, it makes the perfect point. And the fact that they're drawing from Fatal Attraction, which has already had this conversation surrounding it, kind of like just encapsulates it for me.
Yeah. I did watch it, but a long, long time ago. I just remember that that's where like bunny boiler comes from.
Yeah.
Like the term.
Yeah. Hence the rabbit references in this episode.
That's one of my favorite quotes coming up.
Yeah. Okay, so we see inside Amanda's house, and she's frantically flipping through the pages of the book with the occult symbols on it. Now, so what's happened is she knows her spell is backfired because her shit caught fire, and she's trying to fix it, right? But then an eerie wind starts blowing through the house, and it starts taking out all of her candles, and she's like, oh, this is not good. And then she starts screaming because she's getting slashed by an invisible force. So she's getting these deep slashes running vertically on the inside of her wrists, going up and down her left arm and then her right arm. And it's like one at a time. It's pretty creepy, and blood starts pulling out everywhere. And she's screaming, no, no, no. She then falls onto the table, which knocks over the altar. And we just get this POV of her face as she's like dead, blood absolutely everywhere, pressed up against the glass, and we're sort of looking from underneath, and it's pretty gross and pretty scary. Pretty solid gore.
It was gory.
Yeah. So then Dean picks the lock and breaks into Amanda's house with Sam. They're wearing their cool outfits still, okay? It looks really hot. They have guns drawn. They're doing the whole 007 thing. We love it. So she's dead on the coffee table. And Dean's like, well, that's a curveball. It sounds like, yeah. They're like, what the fuck? Because they were going in to stop the witch, but the witch has already stopped. Like, she's pretty fucking stopped at this point. They're like, oh, what the hell? So Dean doesn't touch the body. He uses the gun to lift her arm, and then he can see what's happened. And so it's been made to look as if she's committed suicide. So Dean says 3 per wrist vertical. She wasn't fooling around. But Sam, who's very clever, is like, this seems off. Like, this seems suspicious. Like, what's the motive? Why would she do this? So he's looking at the altar and he's looking at the clues, and he says, it looks like she was working some pretty heavyweight evil here. And Dean's like, yeah. And then he turns around and almost walks into a rabbit hanging from the ceiling dead. And Dean's, oh God, freaking witches, seriously, man, come on. He's so mad.
Yeah. Then he makes the fatal attraction joke. I can't remember what they say.
Okay, so Sam says, guess we know where she got the rabbit's teeth from. And Dean says, well, Paul sure knows how to pick them, huh? It's like fatal attraction all over again.
Yeah. So he makes that joke, and then he's kind of victim blaming Amanda as well. Although, yes, what she did was wrong, but he started it.
Yeah.
And then he says, why does a rabbit always get screwed in the deal? Poor little guy. I love that bit. It was so funny. He has more compassion for a rabbit than like anyone else in this show.
It does. Okay. And what's even better is at some point in the future, and this does not count as a spoiler, at some point in the future, in a future episode, Jensen cuddles up to this rabbit in a scene, and it's not part of the script, and he talks to the rabbit, and it is adorable, and it's pure Jensen. So I feel like
rabbit boy.
He is a rabbit boy. It's adorable. I love this part so much.
Yeah. And then Sam finds a hex bag under her coffee table. And Dean's face is really funny here. It's like he's had enough of all the witchy bullshit. And then Dean says, looks like we got to hit her. Little witch on witch violence. And then he...
Yeah.
It's like, what? Then he calls the police to report the body. And this bit was funny because then they obviously ask for his name. And then he's like, oh, my name is... And hangs up.
I love that part so much.
That was funny.
That was so good.
So then we cut to book club, in quotes. So Elizabeth and 2 other women who we learn are Tammy and Renee later are there.
Yeah. Can I just say the determination poster with the eagle on it was ridiculous and hilarious. It set the vibe, okay? It set the toxic positivity Crystal Lady vibe, okay? A very specific iteration of Crystal Lady. Not all Crystal Ladies are evil, okay? But some of them are, and they go hand in hand with the toxic positivity crowd, okay?
That's the more new agey kind of side of witchcraft.
Yeah. Not the authentic...
Not our side.
Yeah. But the faux witches, okay? The pretend-witchians, okay? So we see the poster, and there's this very average white man, okay? And his name is Ron, all right? And he's about to do his best to Chad at his wife, like just the most average white guy stuff ever. So he says, all right, I'm going. I'm not fooled by your little book club, by the way. I know you ladies get up to when I'm gone. It's all dish and gossip. Because all women do is talk, you know? That's all we do. Everything we say is gossip. So the women laugh as Elizabeth walks in and joins Ron in the doorway, and she says, hi, Ron. And he says, oh, hello, Elizabeth. I mean, when's the last time anyone actually brought a book? And Tammy and Renee in unison say, good night, Ron. Which is like, fuck off, Ron. And I was like, yeah, same. And Ron's like, all right. And then he leaves. And then Elizabeth comes in and she's like, he doesn't know, you didn't tell him. And Renee's like, about Amanda? Oh, I think that's book club business, don't you? And Tammy gets a candle holder with the 3 tapers in it and starts lighting candles on it in front of the sofa. And Renee says, thank you, Tammy. Elizabeth says, the police just took away her body. And what? We're just going to pretend it didn't happen? And Renee's like, we loved Amanda. And Tammy says, it's true. And Renee says, we know she was just a little... Yeah. No, it's not true at all. They're so fake. They're complete plastics. So Renee says, we know she was just a little unstable. And Tammy says, also true. And Renee says, And we have to face it, she probably killed Janet Dutton. And Tammy says, people don't just spit out their teeth all of a sudden.
Ew.
Yeah. And Renee shakes her head like, yeah, this is true. Tammy's right. Tammy's speaking the truth in the way. And Elizabeth says, we have to stop. We have to stop book club. This has all gone too far. And Renee gets up off the sofa and says, Elizabeth, just take a deep breath. Calm down. And Tammy says, we can't stop. And Elizabeth is like, but people are dying. And Renee just goes, like it's all beneath her. And then she goes, Amanda killed herself, yes. And yes, she killed Janet. Awful, awful business, of course. But that's all over now. And think about what book club has gotten us. Your husband's promotion, that little trip to Hawaii you won. And what about me? My home pottery business is finally taking off, and you wanted to stop, and I couldn't help myself. She's just giving me Gwyneth Paltrow and Goop. Like,
yeah.
It's all Goop vibes. And I was just laughing. This is like a Black Mirror episode, taking the piss out of Goop. So she says, do you want to stop? And Elizabeth shakes her head, no. And then Renee claps her hands together. And Renee's like, okay, now come on, we don't have much time. Ron gets back from his fantasy football in an hour. And I was like, yes, because women's lives run around men's hobbies, you know?
And also, like, he's saying, oh, your book club. Oh, yeah, that's not really book club. And guessing at fantasy football, he doesn't do, like, other stuff, like also chat and, like, drink, probably.
Right. Ooh, the double standards are real. Okay, so then they all start doing this, like, dark version of Charmed. And they say, Book of Shadows, we kneel before you. Let us serve your master as you serve us. Book of Shadows, we kneel before you. Let us serve your master.
So they were obviously trying to set it up so that we think Renee is the bad guy to start with, because she's like the bitchy one, isn't she?
Yeah.
But also I have to say that I did notice when Renee was talking about all the list of things that they've done and like the promotions and the holidays and stuff, that Tammy, there was nothing that good had happened to Tammy. So I did notice that at the first time.
You thought she was suspicious.
Yeah, so I'd filed that away in my little brain until
clever.
the end. But I didn't actually make the connection until later because I still thought Renee was going to be the bad guy.
Yeah, I on the first watch through, I didn't get it. I didn't know what was going on. I just sort of thought they were all witches or something. I didn't get the plot twist. And I remember when you first see Tammy be her all demonic self, it was a jump scare for me. I wasn't expecting the demon blink. And I was like, oh. So this was actually like, first time around watching it, I was genuinely creeped out. And I was like, and I'm still kind of creeped out now, even though I know what's happening. I didn't remember who the demon was. I sort of remembered as we got like midway through. I think it was around the next couple of scenes when I was like, oh yeah, it's her. But yeah, it is interesting because Renee is definitely the red herring.
Yeah. So the next day, Sam and Dean are pretending to be detectives and question Elizabeth, who's gardening again. And they ask how she's growing herbs out of season. And I was like, do herbs have seasons? I'm pretty sure you can grow them all the time. Maybe they do.
No, they have seasons. Okay. Especially things like basil. And I like that part because Sam was being very intelligent and also like very pointed. And I was like, oh, this is like a Laura, like a Laura smart Sam thirst trap.
Well, I was questioning him.
Yeah, you were like, do they? Yes, they do. Fun fact.
So they say they're investigating Amanda's death, and I wrote, Elizabeth needs a better poker face because she looks so suspicious right now.
Yeah. She clearly has some anxiety issues. Yeah. And she does not hide what's going on very well at all. It's hilarious. Especially when they get to the word practices. What kind of practices? She's like, ugh.
Yeah, because they're questioning her about her practices, Amanda's practices, saying she had satanic paraphernalia. And then Elizabeth says, no, she was Episcopalian. And Dean says, well, then we're pretty sure she was using the wrong Bible. Which was funny as well.
There's also a music reference in there because he says a regular Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
I was like, nice. Get the rock references in there. I'm a big fan. I also laughed because the way she was shook when she said Episcopalian because I was raised Episcopalian. So I died laughing about that. Oh, amazing.
And then the other two, like so Renee and Tammy come over. And this is why I put Renee's being a bitch to Dean too. Because I was like, why does she say her name really slowly and then ask him if he wants her to spell it? Well, that was just weird.
It's a power play on her part because she wants to establish that the detectives are not in charge. She's in charge. So she walks over and asks Elizabeth if she's all right, which is kind of a boss move, not going to lie. And then Elizabeth is like, and she wasn't really very convincing that things were okay. And so Renee is like, you can tell that she's a little upset. Meaning, like, just shut up, Elizabeth. Okay? You fucking wet blanket. Like, that's how it comes across.
Yeah.
And that's where the switch is, because it starts out like she might just be protecting her friend, and then it immediately becomes clear that she just wants everyone to, like, shut up and acknowledge her power as queen of the universe. Because Dean says, of course, Miss, like, question mark, you know? And she says, Mrs. Renee Van Allen. Do you want me to spell it for you? Like, you're really stupid, aren't you? Like, that's the subtext here. And Dean goes, I'll get by. Thanks. And the attitude that he gives back, I loved it so much. Like, I was just like, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was great.
They're totally just all acting really suspicious though, and you can tell that they're not buying it. And then Sam and Dean leave. And then in the car, Dean is saying that he thinks Elizabeth is the bad guy because of her garden. And then my initial notes were, Dean, the botanist, knows all the plants.
He did. He was like belladonna, wolfsbane, mandrake. And I was like, okay, Dean, actually knowing what plants are. Okay.
Sam has been researching and knows that both Elizabeth and Renee have had a lot of good luck recently. They've like won loads of competitions and stuff. They deduce that the three women and Amanda are the coven of witches. Sam says they are working black magic and need to be stopped. And Dean's like, so you think we should kill them? And Sam's face just like, eh. And Dean's like, they're human, Sam. And Sam says they're murderers. And I wrote, there's definitely been a switch in attitudes between these two because Dean used to be the murdery one.
Yeah. It's the way that Dean was like, they're human. And Sam was like, no, they're killing people, we kill them. And Dean immediately is like, burn, witch, burn. Because he's our American Psycho. Okay, we know this about him. But yeah, Laura's right. This is like a huge flip in attitude. And it is amazing. And then, the Impala's headlights start flickering. And there's a figure in the middle of the road. And so he has to screech to a stop because Ruby is just stood in the middle of the road, stopping the Impala with her badass demon powers and also presence.
Yeah. All right, Ruby, yay!
Woo! We love a femme fatale. So basically, Ruby is trying to warn Sam that there's a player in town that is really, really dangerous and that it's beyond just witches. And Dean's like, oh, so this is Ruby. Because this is the first time he's ever actually seen Ruby. And then he raises the Colt and aims it at her and says, never had the pleasure. And I'm not gonna lie, that was kind of sexy. Like, that was hot, okay? He is being a dick, though. And Sam's like, Dean! And Dean's like, I was hoping you'd show up again. And Ruby's like, point that thing somewhere else. And he's like, no. And Ruby keeps talking to Sam. She's like, this guy is pointless to me. I only really care about Sam. So she's begging him to leave and not look back. And Sam's like, I don't understand. And then Dean says, hey, hot stuff. We can take care of a few kitchen witches. Thanks. I was like, ew. Ew. And Ruby says, I'm not talking about witches, you jackass. Witches are whores. And I was like, Laura, are we whores?
Ruby, rude.
She says, I'm talking about who they serve. And they look really confused. Like, Sam and Dean are like, what the fuck? And then Sam realizes and he says, demons. They get their power from demons. And Ruby's like, yeah, and there's one here now. Yeah. And Dean says, oh, you mean besides you? Because he's being super catty. And Ruby says that it knows that Sam is there and that it's going to come after Sam in a big way. And it's more than they can handle. And Dean's like, ugh, whatever. Can she just shut up? Like, he's mad this whole time. because he's trying to threaten her and she's literally ignoring him. He's like, I have the cult that can kill you. And she's like, shut up. You're just Sam's side piece. Like, just be quiet. It is so funny. And then Ruby's like, put a leash on your brother Sam if you want to keep him. And I was like, oh, that's such a sick burn. That was amazing. And then Sam is like, Dean, just chill out. And Dean loses his shit. And then he says, this is where I have like everything highlighted because this part gets really misogynistic. He says, no, she's messing with your head. God knows why. That's who they are. Because that didn't feel like it was about demons. That felt like it was about women. And this episode equates women with witches and demons and sluts and whores, basically. Like, It's not even low-key. It's very obvious. And so Ruby says she's telling the truth. And Dean says, I'm telling you to shut up, bitch. And she says, I'm sorry, were you even part of this conversation? Which is just like slay, queen, slay. And then Dean says, oh, I don't know, maybe because he's my brother, you black-eyed skank. Again, he keeps calling her like a slut, a whore, a bitch, basically. Like, and I was like, for fuck's sake. So Ruby's like, oh, yeah, oh, right, you care about your brother so much, that's why you're checking out in a few months and leaving him all alone. And Dean, that hit a nerve. He's like, shut up. And Ruby's like, at least let me try to save him since you won't be here to do it anymore. And then he freaks out and he screams, I said shut up. And he goes to shoot Ruby with the Colt. And Sam screams, Dean, no! And he grabs his arm so that the bullet misses. And Ruby just disappears. And then he's like, what the fuck, bro?
Yeah. I wrote that Sam stops Dean from shooting her because he loves her.
He loves her. He wants to marry her, but not this iteration, the next one. So yeah.
I did like how Ruby was holding her own in this argument though, and like kept having little comebacks to Dean because he was just not being very nice.
Yeah, he's horrible this whole episode, and she is a complete femme fatale this whole episode, so it's really, really, it saves it. Because if she didn't have these comebacks, this episode would literally just be trash.
Yeah. So Sam and Dean go to their motel and have an argument. And I just have to point out first, what was with the texture of the walls in this motel?
I wrote it down.
There's also like a garden gate or something in there as well. It's so weird.
Because the theme of the motel is hell. I wrote down the theme of this motel is clearly hell. And it is decorative hell for sure. It's decorative hell. Awful.
It's called like the Conquistador Motel or something.
The Conquistador, yeah.
And I was like, I don't understand this theme.
I think because conquistadors were the epitome of evil, and then you have like the inside of the hotel being like some variation, like the red is supposed to be like flames. I feel like the whole thing is supposed to be like evil. I do think that the conquistadors may have also had like, yeah, they did have a hand in the witch trials. Like Spain was also involved, so I think that it's a little reference.
Okay.
It's just like blood, death, dying. Like I think they're trying to make a point, and I don't think they're actively trying to be as sexist as they ended up being in the episode, but it's written by a dude, and it's just it shows that there's this was written by a man.
Yeah, I don't know, it just looked like bringing the outdoors indoors to me.
It looked like hell to me. It looked like visual hell, ugly, I don't want to see it. And also it was clearly supposed to be about hell because you have like the gates that are supposed to be like a prison for Dean because Dean's going to hell, and then you have like the deep reds everywhere. There's some little like orangey highlights, so the whole thing is supposed to like give us a little taste of like the idea that Dean's going to hell and he'll be trapped.
Yeah, that's clever. I did not. So I was just like, why is there a gate? So Sam and Dean have an argument. Dean is like, why did you save a demon? Sam points out that Dean is a hypocrite because he didn't want Sam to kill the demon from Sin City, Casey. He also says he knows Ruby is dangerous, but she's useful. Dean doesn't trust Ruby at all, though, and he says they should kill her before she kills them. And Sam makes a good point, because he says if she wants us dead, all she has to do is stop saving our lives.
And that was also a burn. Yeah. And I loved it. I loved it so much. His tone when he says it to Dean is like full, like, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, it's great.
And he says that they're at war now. It's not the same as when they were just hunting before. Dean then goes on to ask Sam if he's okay, and he brings up that he's taking advice from a demon and doesn't really care about killing people anymore, and he's worried because Sam isn't acting himself. And I was like, is this the first time that he's actually voicing this concern to Sam? Because he's mentioned it to like Bobby. He's kind of said it before, like you can tell from his facial expressions that he's been thinking there's something off about Sam.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's actually brought it up with Sam before, has he?
I don't think if he has, it hasn't been this direct. Like this is I feel like this is the first time he's this like cut and dry, direct, black and white. Like you're not acting like yourself. There's something wrong with you.
Yeah. It's hard as well because it's like one of those moments where I can see both sides of it, because I know why, I can understand why Sam trusts Ruby, but also why Dean doesn't, because she is a demon.
Yeah.
And I really think that Dean is just concerned about Sam still here, like he's worrying about his brother. But anyway, so Sam says that he is changing because Dean is leaving, and I went, well, he's dying and going to hell, but yeah, okay.
Same difference.
And he says he's trying to be more like Dean, so he kind of explains that he knows that he's changing, but he's doing that on purpose. So during this entire argument, we can tell that Dean is starting to have some sort of pain or discomfort because he keeps like grabbing his side and breathing really deeply. But then the pain intensifies when Sam says about being like Dean, and he starts groaning and saying it feels like he has knives inside him. And then it must be the coven. So Sam searches the motel for a hex bag but doesn't find one. Meanwhile, Dean is coughing up blood and collapsing to the floor. And then my initial notes, I put, oh no, Dean is dying. There must be a hex bag somewhere. Check the car.
I wrote, that's such good thinking. I thought it, but I didn't write it down. What I actually wrote down was, yes, Sam, it is inside the mattress that has no marks on it whatsoever. Because when he starts panicking, he pulls one of the mattresses off and slices into it dramatically with a knife looking on the inside. And I was like, it was hot, but I was just like, sure, that's where we should be looking, Sam. Sure.
Inside the mattress.
Inside the mattress.
This whole bit actually, and the beginning of the next scene is just a whole Sam thirst trap.
100%. I wrote Sam tearing off to save Dean. Thirst trap.
Because he grabs the colt, leaves, and then we get a shot of him driving the Impala, which was also hot. And then we cut to the coven who've gathered for book club, and they're chanting, and then the door bursts open because Sam's kicked it down, and he comes in pointing the colt at them, and that was hot as well.
I wrote, Sam is getting more and more red light. Ominous ...
Ah.
And then I wrote, kicking down the door. He is gone, full Dean. And I was not mad about it. And then I wrote, toss the altar, Sam, you sexy motherfucker.
I didn't notice the lighting. So you always notice things like that. And that is really interesting that he's getting red lighting.
Laura, I have to do something with my film degree. Okay. I have to justify my arts degree somehow.
I like it because you point stuff out and then I'm like, makes sense.
Yeah.
So back at the motel, Ruby kicks the door down and enters. So everyone's kicking doors down.
Yeah, and it was so hot. Can I just say, that was a thirst trap. I was thirst trapped to the hilt. That was amazing.
Dean, even though Dean's dying, he can't resist continuing their little fight from earlier, and he's like, "You want to kill me? Get in line, bitch."
Yep.
Dean, stop calling him a bitch. Then Ruby grabs him and holds him down on the bed and forces him to drink something. And I don't know what it was, but it looked disgusting because it's like dark grey liquid.
It's like blackish. And it's thick. Okay, she's a thick liquid. She is mysterious goo. We don't know what that is, but it looks like it was like dead people leftovers or something. It didn't look great.
Ew.
Yeah. Ew. It's not ideal.
She doesn't explain what it is later either, because she just says, is witchcraft.
Yeah.
I was like, that's vague.
Yeah.
Sam, back with Sam and the witches, he's making them line up away from their altar, and he tells them to stop the spell or die. And then this is where, so Elizabeth and Renee actually look really shocked. And I was like, oh no, it's not them. But I did notice that we weren't being shown Tammy. It was literally just on those two.
Yeah. You were like suspicious, which I didn't pick up the first time. That's where you're smarter than me. You're better at the continuity and the clues of who the villain is, because I don't actually pick up on that the way that you do.
So he then gets ready to shoot them, and Elizabeth says that they were just trying to get Renee a lower mortgage rate. Like, what kind of witchcraft is this?
Elizabeth has not a day. She's not having a good day. She signed up for affirmations, crystals, a little light satanic worship to just get things that she wanted, you know. But she wasn't expecting any actual consequences, moral or otherwise. She's just like, it's just a lower mortgage rate. She's clutching her pearls.
And then we cut back to the motel, and Dean is talking to Ruby, saying, "You saved my life." He doesn't actually thank her, though.
He does not. He does not at all.
Ruby notices that because she's like, "Don't mention it." He asks what the liquid was and says it tasted like ass. Sorry, I can't say that properly because I want to say ass. And then she just says it's witchcraft and leaves. I was like, that was vague. But then I put, Ruby saved him. Maybe Dean will trust her a bit more now.
Oh, I have to say this because this is my favorite line. Okay, this is my favorite line. Also, I have notes. Okay. So I wrote down Ruby mouthfucks Dean with this potion and says, "Stop calling me bitch," which is pretty cathartic since he was a vehicle for so much sexist BS all episode. Like, just all episode. And Ruby also says, "Next time you point that gun at me, I'm not going to just disappear. Understand?" And she tosses a sawed-off shotgun over to Dean, who is back to sitting on the foot of the bed, and his face is like kind of cleaned off a little bit. And this is where he's like, "You saved my life." A little bit of a William Shatner pause. He's like, "You saved my life." It was great. It was so funny. And Ruby's like, "Don't mention it." And Dean's like, the ass line. He says, "What was that stuff?" "God, it was ass. It tasted like ass." And Ruby says, "It's called witchcraft, short bus." Now, the reason why this is funny is because she just called him very special. She said, "You are not clever enough to ride a regular sized bus to school." Okay, delicately, that's what she's saying. And it's hilarious because she just called him a himbo, basically. And then she just turns around and walks out. And Dean is like so offended, and he's trying so hard to come up with an insult, and he can't do it. He's like, "You're the short bus. Short bus." And he like whispers the last part because he knows that it's pathetic, but he has to get the last word in. And I thought that was so funny. And I was like, it's the whispered short bus. And I have like 3 laughing emojis because I actually almost threw my water bottle off of the sofa. I was laughing so hard.
So then we cut back to Sam, and he's still pointing the gun at Elizabeth and Renee and says, "Okay, maybe it's not you." But then he points it at Tammy and says, "Maybe it's you." And he points out that everyone in the coven has had runs of good fortune except her. And then she starts protesting, but she seems really fake. And then we realise it's because she's a demon. And then my initial notes here were, she should have given herself some good fortune to protect her identity, idiot. She made it obvious.
Amazing.
She should have given herself some, like, I don't know, some money or a promotion. I don't know.
Something. Yeah.
So then Sam tells her to let Dean go, and then she has a demon-y comeback. I didn't write down what it was. And Sam shoots the cult, but she slows the bullet down and it drops to the floor and says, "You're in a lot of trouble, Sam." And I wrote, "Ooh, she has cool powers. She can slow bullets down." Uh-oh.
I wrote, "Ruby did warn you, you tall, beautiful idiot."
We both called people idiots.
Amazing.
So Tammy throws Sam against the wall and holds him there with her powers. Elizabeth and Renee are like, "What the fuck, Tammy?"
Yeah, they're shook.
And Tammy snaps Renee's neck, which was horrible. I don't like it when they do that.
Oh, yeah, that was a lot.
Yeah, although I did put her in my notes. I didn't like her though, so I don't really care.
So after she snaps Renee's head like a matchstick, Sam says, "Look, you got me, let the girl go," because he's all heroic and he's trying to rescue Elizabeth because he's a little heroic angel. Which is interesting. It's an interesting coin flip because before he was like, "They're all murderers, kill them." Now he's like, "Let me rescue her." So Elizabeth makes this really scared noise, and Tammy looks at her and says, "Shh, Lizzie, it's okay." But in a way that says, "I'm going to eat your insides slowly." Like, it's just, like, it's a tone. And Elizabeth says, "You're not Tammy." And Tammy says, "No, but I'm wearing her meat. I had to break the ice with you girls somehow." and it's all really dark and scary, and I loved it. And Elizabeth's like, you killed Renee. And Tammy's like, Renee, Amanda, that's what happens to witches who get voted off the island. And Elizabeth's like, who are you? And she says, funny story, actually. You remember all those dark demonic forces you prayed to when you swore your servitude? Who did you think you were praying to? She's like, why? How do you think actions don't have consequences? And Elizabeth's like, I'm an upper class white woman. What are consequences? You know, like Elizabeth this entire time is just like, it can't. And Tammy's like, what did you think it was? Make-believe? Positive thinking? This secret? No, it was me. You sold yourself to me, you pig. And that part was really great. I love the part where she's like, did you think it was the secret? It's great. So Elizabeth, at this point, just starts looking like a fish. Like, her mouth is hanging open. She can't breathe. She's having a full-blown panic attack. And Tammy's like, all I had to do was bring one good book to book club, and you ladies lined up to kiss my ass. And Elizabeth's like, no, we didn't know. And Tammy's like, oh, yes, you did. You knew every step of the way. And now your ever-living souls are mine. So Tammy turns back to Sam, who's pinned up against the wall all Christ-like and shit, and says, comments, questions? Sammy Winchester. Wow, right here in our little town. You know, my friends and I, we've been looking for you. And Sam's like, why? Oh, right, because I'm supposed to lead some piss-poor demon army. And I was like, oh, Sam, with the comebacks. Tammy says, no, not at all. You're not our messiah. We don't believe in you. But there's a new leader rising in the West, a real leader. That's the horse to bet on, Sam. You believe in Sam. Yeah. The one who's going to tear this world apart. Thing is, this demon, it doesn't like you very much. It doesn't want the competition. So Tammy raises her hand, and Sam slides up the wall and is clearly being crushed more and more into it. And she says, nothing personal. It's a PR thing. So bye-bye. And that made me think of Laura's, the way that she said it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah.
This is so intriguing, though. So there's a new player coming into, there's going to be a character that's like,
oh, yeah,
the anti-Sam.
The anti-Sam.
I'm excited.
Yep. Yeah, it is very exciting. Like the suspense and drama that gets built up is really, really good. So Sam starts being really crushed into the wall. Like, the walls are cracking, and it's really clear. I thought
she was actually going to kill him at one point.
Yeah. Like, we're like, oh no, Sam, don't die again so soon. Like, Dickens already sold his soul for you, bro. Could you not stay alive for like 5 minutes? So Elizabeth is frozen in fear, and then the front door slams open, and Dean runs in with his shotgun drawn. And you think for a minute we're gonna have this sick heroic Dean moment. I'm like, oh, my heart is palpitating, but no, friends, because Tam turns around and just like flicks her hand, and he fucking flies into the sofa. And then when he gets up again, she pins him to the other wall behind him. So now she has both Winchesters pinned up against the walls, and she's like 2 for 1, lovely. She's
having so quick as well. It was like
it's so
a blur.
Fast. Yeah.
I bet Dean was dizzy.
100%. And then we hear Ruby's voice cut in, and she says, wait. And she walks in, and her hands are raised. And she says, please, I just came to talk. And Ruby puts her hands down, and Tammy's like, you made it out of the gate. Impressive. That was a bitch of a fight, wasn't it? And Ruby says, doors out of hell only stay open for so long. And Tammy says, what do you want, Ruby? And Ruby says, I've been lost without you. Take me back. That's why I led the Winchesters here. And Dean looks so fucking pissed off and looks at Sam and is like, I told you so to Sam.
Yeah.
And Sam's just like, oh. So Ruby says they're for you as a gift. And Tammy says, really? And she says, let me serve you again. I've wanted it. I've wanted you for so long. And Dean's like, oh my God, are we going to see girls kissing other girls? He's forgotten that they're demons. And that made me laugh pretty hard. And Tammy says, you were one of my best. And Ruby and Tammy look at each other, and Ruby pulls her knife out, because it's like she fakes out like she's gonna kiss Tammy, but then she goes to stab Tammy, but Tammy catches it in midair. And then she says, but then again, you always were a lying whore. And then the knife is thrown sideways out of their hands across the floor. Tammy and Ruby are fighting. Tammy throws Ruby into the TV, but she gets up and kicks Tammy and goes to run past her. And Tammy clotheslines Ruby. Can I just say, she doesn't just kick her, she kicks her in the cunt. Okay? Like, she fought so dirty. So dirty. So Tammy clotheslines Ruby, causing her to fall flat on her back. Tammy pulls Ruby up and throws her into a bookcase and then gets a fireplace poker from the stand of the hearth, looking at Elizabeth, who's still cowering away before she turns to attack Ruby with the poker.
I did wonder at this point why Lizzie was just standing there instead of like running away when Tammy was distracted. But then she does help later, so then I was like, oh, maybe it was a good thing she didn't.
I think she initially froze in fear.
Yeah.
Tammy says, "You're really telling me you threw in your chips with Abbott and Costello over here?" Sam and Dean, she's like, these clowns? And Ruby tries to get back up, but Tammy hits her across the face with the poker so hard you think she's going to be dead really soon. Like, it's not good. And I was thinking, oh no, the poor woman that is being possessed by Ruby right now is not in good shape. So Elizabeth runs to the altar and dumps a bunch of pins out of a bowl onto the cloth. And in my notes, I just wrote convenient.
Yeah.
So she's in the background and Tammy doesn't see her because she's all focused on Ruby. And Tammy's like, come on, get up. And Ruby's panting and blood's coming out of her nose, but it's like she can't get up. And Tammy's screaming, I said, get up. And then she tosses the poker over and grabs her by the jacket, pulling her up. And she says, we've been here before, haven't we? And then she laughs and she looks at Sam. And she says, she didn't tell you? And then she turns back to Ruby and says, pretty mortifying, I guess. She was one of mine. I turned her out a long, long time ago. Ruby here was a witch. Of course, that was when you were human. And Dean and Sam look at each other like, what the actual fuck? And Tammy says, didn't want your friends to know that all those centuries back you sold yourself to me? Embarrassing, I guess. But don't worry, love. No secrets where you're heading, remember? And then she starts chanting an exorcism rite, but it's a demonic one. So she's sending Ruby back to hell. And Ruby, you can see, is fighting because the black demon smoke is going out of her mouth, the demon dust, if you will. Dust. And then she's sucking it back in. So there's this clear battle of wills. And then suddenly Tammy starts coughing. And we see that Elizabeth is chanting under her breath at the altar. And Tammy starts coughing harder. Dean drops on the wall and falls forward, and Sam also gets dropped. So what Elizabeth is doing is overpowering Tammy for this moment in time. And she starts coughing up blood and those super long pins.
Ew.
Yeah, that was good gore. And then she looks at the pins, raises her right hand and clenches it in a fist. And we see that she's basically crushed Elizabeth's heart with that action because Elizabeth falls down and drops dead at the altar. But Dean, who is the poster child for violence, asks no questions. Okay, no questions were asked. Runs up, hooks her behind the neck, and stabs her repeatedly in the back with the demon knife from Ruby. And Tammy dies. And she just falls to the floor. And then Dean looks at Ruby and goes to help Sam up. And they both move towards the door and stop to look at Ruby. And Ruby just says, go. And what's interesting about that was they both stopped and they both looked back at Ruby. And I was like, oh, Dean. Oh, Dean. So she looks embarrassed and she starts wiping the blood away from her mouth. And she says, I'll clean up this mess. So Dean's helping Sam to get out, and he says, come on, because he's kind of dragging Sam away. You can tell that Sam really wants to go back and make sure that Ruby's actually okay. And she just says, go. And her eyes go all black when she says it. So then they leave. She takes her knife out of Tammy's back and holds it up, and it's just like covered in blood and smoking. And that was pretty cool.
Well, then we cut to Sam washing his face, which was hot.
Oh, Laura.
He's like brushing his hair back as well. It's hot.
Yeah.
Anyway,
okay.
Dean's outside walking back to the motel room and all the lights start flickering. And I went, uh-oh, flickering lights are never good on this show. Just like the radio in the car. Dean is looking around like, what the hell's happening? And then Ruby appears.
So Dean says, wacky night. So let me get this straight. You were human once. You died. You went to hell. You became a... And Ruby says, yeah. And then she turns to leave. And Dean says, how long ago? And Ruby says, back when the plague was big. And Dean says, so all of them, every damn demon, they were all humans once. And Ruby says, everyone I've ever met. And Dean says, well, they sure don't act like it. So Ruby says most of them have forgotten what it means, or even that they were. That's what happens when you go to hell, Dean. That's what hell is, forgetting what you are.
Oh,
And
no.
Dean says, yeah, philosophy lesson from a demon. I'll pass, thanks. And Ruby says, it's not philosophy. It's not a metaphor. There's a real fire in the pit, agonies you can't even imagine. And Dean says, no, I saw Hellraiser. I get the gist. Ruby turns around and starts walking away. And she says, actually, they got that pretty close, except for all the custom leather. And Dean looks scared for a minute. And Ruby says the answer is yes, by the way. And Dean says, I'm sorry. And Ruby says, yes, the same thing will happen to you. It might take centuries. But sooner or later, hell will burn away your humanity. Every hellbound soul, everyone turns into something else, turns you into us. So yeah, you can count on it.
Ugh, that was scary because I'd had questions as she was saying this, but then she answered them because I was like, does that mean John is going to turn into a demon? And then I was like, wait, does that mean Dean is going to turn into a demon? And apparently so.
Darkness everywhere. Yeah. So I wrote, imagine, if you will, Demon Dean, and then I just wrote firework emojis, like 6 rows behind that. So then, returning to the scene, Ruby says, I need your help. And Dean says, with what? And Ruby says, with Sam. The way you stuck that demon tonight, it was pretty tough. Sam's almost there, but not quite. You need to help me get him ready for life without you, to fight this war on his own. And Ruby turns to walk away again. And Dean says, Ruby. And then Dean asks, why do you want us to win? And Ruby turns back to face Dean. And Ruby says, isn't it obvious? I'm not like them. I don't know why. I wish I was, but I'm not. I remember what it's like. And Dean says, what's like? And Ruby just says, being human.
Yeah. See, this is what makes her so interesting. Like, she can remember her humanity.
It is so good. It's really dark. It's really scary. It leaves us on this huge cliffhanger because we know that Dean is doomed to go to hell and become a demon now. And that's fucking scary. And that means that Sam is going to be by himself fighting the entire army of hell. And so, like, as far as tension building goes, I don't think that you could get better than this.
No, I think it's really good. Do you want to do end of episode games?
Yes, I do.
Villain hot or not?
Tammy, hot. Evil but hot. Ruby, hot. Anti-hero. So
yeah, Ruby's not a villain.
Yeah. The girl who kills Janet is not hot and should die. And she did, so.
I just put no. None of them hot. Scare rating?
I give it like a 6, I feel like. Because of the teeth scene.
Yeah.
And the maggot scenes. And just the general, like, medical body horror of it all. It wasn't so much like a jump scare one as it was, like, just body horror.
That's exactly what I put up at 6, just for the teeth and the maggots.
Yeah. Great minds think alike.
What was your favourite quote?
It's Dean going, what was that stuff? God, it was ass. It tasted like ass. And Ruby says, it's called witchcraft, short bus. And Dean's all like, you're the short bus, because he can't think of anything to say. That's the best one.
I had 2. I've got when Elizabeth says, no, she was Episcopalian, and Dean says, well, then we're pretty sure she was using the wrong Bible.
Yeah, that was great. I love that.
Because I like sarcasm. And then, but I'm going to go with, why does a rabbit always get screwed in the deal? Poor little guy.
That was awesome, too.
It was cute. Poor little guy.
Yeah.
What was your favourite thirst trap?
Oh. It's when Sam and Dean burst into the apartment thinking that they're going to fight a witch, and then they're not. But, like, their breaking in is very hot.
Oh, that was a curveball, that bit.
Yeah, that bit.
Mine was just the whole bit where Sam rips open the mattress, then drives off, and then breaks the witch's door down and points a gun at them all.
Yeah. See, that one, if I'm honest, is probably the one. Now that you bring that up.
I feel like Dean actually looked pretty hot in the whole last scene with Ruby.
110%. That was so sexy. Like, he's all overpowered and shit in the motel, and then they have the heart-to-heart outside. I feel like both of those do it for me. Because I love it when she beats the shit out of him and saves his life and tells him he's dumb. And he's just like, it's his shook face. His shook face is sexy to me. And then it's his brooding, what have I done faces, and like the him being vulnerable at the end, and like having this actual exchange with Ruby and actually being interested in her and treating her like a person. Like that was good. That was a really good ending scene.
Yeah. MVP.
I do think it has to technically be Elizabeth, and if it wasn't Elizabeth, then I would say Ruby.
Yeah, I want to give it to Ruby, but I think it's Elizabeth.
Yeah, it's Elizabeth. R.I.P. Elizabeth.
Yeah, she literally sacrificed herself.
Yeah.
Motel. I just put weird texture on the walls, weird indoor fence gate, 3 stars.
1 star. Do not recommend. Would not stay here.
I like how you explained it though earlier. So yeah, I'd probably drop it a star.
Thank you.
I mean, it didn't look dirty or anything. Like it just was just random. Like they've stayed in actual holes. Places. Yeah.
Yeah, they've stayed in actual pits. It wasn't like that. It was like physically bad or dangerous. It wasn't that. It was just the decorations were hell. Like they were designed to make you feel like you were in hell. The textures on the wall was torturous. The decor was hideous, and it was conquistador themed. It was like literally themed after evil. So I was just like, no. No.
We'll not put that one on the road trip.
Absolutely not. Gross.
I think we should put on Salem though, because you're from your Easter egg. I really want to go there, and I want to go there with you.
Yeah, I want to go there with you. I don't think I would want to go there with anybody else. It has to be me and you. Yeah. We'll have the best time.
Well, that was the end then.
Don't forget to leave us comments on Spotify.
Yeah.
We love that so much. Tell us what your favorite thirst trap was. And definitely tell us your favorite quote in the comments on Spotify for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so shall we say goodbye then?
Let's say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe. We would be very grateful. And if you know someone who would enjoy it, please share.
You can find us on Instagram at the Witches of Letters podcast, or you can email us at thewitchesofletters@gmail.com.
Until next time, stay safe out there, have each other's backs, and always keep fighting.